Hello and welcome to Star Life, the channel where you can learn everything about your favorite celebrities. Today, we dive into the fascinating and often ruthless world of Hollywood and Italian cinema. It's often said that Hollywood creates stars, but in truth, it takes very little to break them. A jealous remark, a stolen role, or even a single icy glance. Sophia Loren, the ultimate icon, knows this better than anyone. For decades, she reigned over Italian and international cinema, captivating the world with her mesmerizing beauty, unparalleled talent, and magnetic presence. Born Sophia Villani Ciccalone in 1934 in the poverty-stricken town of Pozzuoli, near Naples, she rose through sheer determination from a childhood marked by war and hunger to become one of the greatest actresses of all time. Her expressive eyes, statuesque figure, and husky voice won the hearts of millions, and she remains the only actress to win an Oscar for a non-English language performance, with two women, La Ciociara, in 1961. But behind the glitz, the spotlights, and the red carpets, there were venomous whispers, fierce rivalries, and betrayals that slowly chipped away at her legacy. Now, at 90 years old, Sophia Loren holds nothing back. She opens the floodgates of her memories, revealing without filter the 5 actors who, piece by piece, tried to destroy her career. These stories aren't just juicy gossip. They unveil the dark underbelly of an industry where glamour often masks cruelty. Get ready to discover forbidden love affairs, unpunished aggressions, murderous glances, and legendary feuds. We start with the first, Cary Grant, a forbidden love that nearly destroyed everything. Sophia Loren's greatest tragedy wasn't a failed film or a scathing review, but Cary Grant. He was her great love, her most painful heartbreak, and the man who, without even realizing it, altered the course of her career forever. It all began in 1954 on the set of Houseboat, directed by Melville Shavelson. Sophia was just 21 years old at the time. Young, radiant, still a stranger to the cutthroat ways of Hollywood, she was learning English with difficulty and remained deeply tied to her native Italy. She had just arrived from Rome, where she had starred in minor films, but nothing had prepared her for what awaited her. Cary Grant, on the other hand, was 50 years old. Elegant, refined, already a living legend with iconic roles in To Catch a Thief and The Philadelphia Story, he was married to his third wife, Betsy Drake, and seemed untouchable. His British charm, irresistible smile, and sophisticated aura made him impossible to resist. Yet, the moment she saw him, Sophia was enchanted. When I finally caught sight of Cary's unmistakable profile at the door, I thought I was going to faint, she later confessed in her memoir. He was exactly as he appeared on screen. Charming, magnetic, almost unreal. Despite the glaring age difference, nearly 30 years, and their respective commitments, they slipped inexorably into a passionate affair that consumed them both. Cary Grant pursued her with an ardor that surprised even Sophia. He wrote her long, almost mystical letters, urging her to think of him every night before falling asleep. He called her every morning, his suave voice crossing telephone lines to make her melt. He sent her daily bouquets of red roses, symbolizing their forbidden passion, and even 2 gold bracelets engraved with personal messages. "These will protect you," he whispered to her one day. In one particularly poignant letter, he wrote, "Forgive me, dear child, I'm pressing you too much. Pray. And I will pray too until next week. Farewell, Sophia." Cary. Sophia believed in him completely. She believed in the man whose on-screen roles seemed so noble, so gentle, and thought he was the same when the cameras stopped rolling. She believed in his whispers of divorce, in the promise of a life together far from scandal. She envisioned a shared future, perhaps in Hollywood or Italy, where they could finally live their love openly. But Hollywood is built on illusions, mirages that evaporate at the first ray of reality. In 1957, as Sophia waited for the promise to materialize, she received another letter, this time from Betsy Drake herself. Cold, brutal, definitive. "You were just a supporting role in his life, and his scene with you is over." For Sophia, it was more than rejection. It was a profound humiliation. A slap that woke her from a dream too beautiful to be true. She realized in a single night that the man she thought she loved had always been acting, not just on screen but in real life. "I once believed men could be as tender as the roles they played," she later confided with bitterness. "But he was acting. And I was real." Heartbroken, Sophia turned to Carlo Ponti, the Italian producer who had been courting her for years with infinite patience. She accepted his marriage proposal, not out of burning passion but out of resignation, seeking a haven of stability in an ocean of chaos. But this choice led her into another misfortune. Ponti was still married under Italian Catholic law, and their secret proxy marriage in Mexico in 1957 was condemned by the Vatican. Sophia was accused of bigamy, ostracized in Italy, and forced into exile in France and Switzerland. What could have been a grand Hollywood marriage with Cary Grant became a life under the shadow of scandal, with legal battles and a press that painted her as an immoral woman. If Houseboat marked the beginning of their story, The Pride and the Passion in 1957 sealed its downfall. The female lead role had been written for Betsy Drake, but Cary Grant insisted that Sophia take it. This public replacement was seen as a blatant betrayal and caused a scandal. The press dubbed Sophia the homewrecker, portraying her as a ruthless Italian seductress who had destroyed an American marriage. Producers, fearing backlash and potential boycotts, began to distance themselves. Director Melville Shavelson later admitted that the tension on set was unbearable. The sexual chemistry was real, too real. The film became impossible to direct. Instead of cementing her American career, this affair made her guilty in the eyes of the public. Grant, meanwhile, emerged unscathed, continuing to rack up successes without his reputation suffering. Sophia, however, bore the shame alone, watching doors close in Hollywood. Finally, in 1966, Sophia was able to legally marry Carlo Ponti after his divorce was recognized. Her life found stability, but the damage was done. She had chosen Ponti, but at the cost of Hollywood's acceptance. American studios labeled her too scandalous, too European, too difficult to manage. Roles she could have landed, perhaps collaborations with Hitchcock or other greats, slipped through her fingers. Grant, meanwhile, continued to shine, marrying a fourth time and remaining adored by the public until his retirement in 1966. Sophia had to fight with all her strength to rebuild herself, not as a starlet reduced to a failed affair, but as a globally recognized actress. She won her Oscar for Two Women in 1961, a victory born of her sheer resilience, not the support of Hollywood studios. This story with Cary Grant didn't just break her heart, it reshaped her career, forcing her to reinvent herself in Europe rather than fully conquering America. But Sophia emerged stronger, proving that even forbidden loves couldn't extinguish her star. Now, let's move to the second actor who tried to derail her career, Marlon Brando, and the incident that crossed every line. Sophia Loren experienced humiliation at the hands of one of the most powerful and controversial men in cinema. The story of what happened on the set of A Countess from Hong Kong in 1967 isn't just about a petty quarrel. It's about a blatant violation, a line crossed in the deafening silence of a film set, and the terrible price a woman could pay for daring to speak out and defend herself. By the mid-1960s, Sophia and Brando were two international giants. Brando, the rebellious genius of On the Waterfront and A Streetcar Named Desire, was the icon of the tormented young man who had reinvented American acting with his immersive method and raw intensity. He was known for his immense talent but also for his volatile temper, caprices, and problematic behavior. When Charlie Chaplin, the undisputed master of silent cinema, announced he would direct A Countess from Hong Kong, his final film, the world expected a miracle. The Brando-Loren duo promised to make history, a romantic comedy aboard a luxury liner filled with charm, glamour, and Chaplin's signature wit. The posters showcased an irresistible couple, with Brando as an American diplomat and Sophia as a Russian countess in exile. But instead, it became one of the ugliest and most painful episodes of Sophia Loren's career. In her memoir, Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, My Life, published in 2014, Sophia recounts with disarming honesty the moment that changed everything. All of a sudden, he put his hands on me, she writes. It was during a rehearsal in front of the entire crew. Brando, without any invitation, had aggressively grabbed her breasts. Sophia's reaction was immediate, fearless, and unforgettable. She turned calmly, hissed in his face like a cat stroked against the grain, and said in a firm voice, "Don't you ever dare do that again, ever." Those words fell on the set like shattered glass, creating a heavy silence. Brando, one of the most untouchable and feared actors in the world, had just been publicly put in his place. For the first time, this imposing man, used to dominating sets, seemed small, disarmed, almost ashamed of his own celebrity. He never tried again, but the damage was done. The violation was just the beginning of a professional nightmare. From that moment, their relationship crumbled to pieces. Scenes meant to exude tenderness and complicity radiated an unbearable coldness, a palpable tension that showed on screen. Brando, already notorious for his legendary arrogance, chronic lateness, and disdain for conventions, became utterly impossible to work with. Chaplin himself, directing the film at 77, publicly reprimanded him for making the entire crew wait for hours. According to Sophia, the master's anger reduced Brando's voice to something small, almost extinguished, like a scolded child. But even Chaplin's unquestionable authority couldn't erase the hostility between the two stars. Where the film's posters promised torrid passion, the camera captured only stiff gestures, rigid embraces, and gazes that stubbornly refused to meet. The film, which should have been a triumph, turned out to be a critical and commercial failure, marking the end of Chaplin's career on a bitter note. At that time, for many actresses, silence was a survival strategy in the face of abuse. Hollywood was a man's world, where complaints could ruin a career faster than a box office flop. But Sophia chose defiance. She didn't hide what Brando had done. She set boundaries out loud in front of a crew that had likely witnessed such behavior before but preferred to look the other way. It was a courageous act, foreshadowing the #MeToo movement decades later, but it came with immediate consequences. Brando was untouchable in Hollywood, his word carried weight, and whispers spread quickly. Sophia Loren, once courted as the future queen of American cinema, found herself facing fewer invitations, fewer role offers, and more rumors labeling her as difficult or a diva. She hadn't bowed to one of Hollywood's kings, and she paid dearly for it. Studios, fearing tension on sets, hesitated to cast her in major productions. Brando's arrogance was legendary and well documented. He had clashed with Frank Sinatra on the set of Guys and Dolls, disrespected directors like Stanley Kramer, and humiliated co-stars like Maria Schneider during the controversial filming of Last Tango in Paris in 1972, where he improvised assault scenes without consent. For him, boundaries were meant to be tested, broken, and then mocked. But for Sophia, the incident on a countess from Hong Kong left a deep scar. She always maintained her dignity but later admitted it was very difficult to work with him after that. Every scene became a painful reminder of the contempt she had endured. Yet, she refused to be defined by this episode. She continued to film, earning international acclaim, such as With a Special Day in 1977, but she never forgot. This confrontation with Brando didn't just mark a shoot. It revealed the glaring inequalities of an industry where women had to fight for respect at the risk of losing everything. Sophia, by daring to speak out, paved the way for others, but at what cost to her own career? The third actor on our list is Charlton Heston, and the story of their silent hatred, marked by icy glares and oversized egos. Sophia Loren, the Italian goddess with stormy eyes and curves that could silence an entire room, was meant to live forever in Hollywood's myths. Charlton Heston, the chiseled prophet of the Ten Commandments, the immortal warrior of Ben-Hur, was supposed to be her perfect equal. When the two were paired for the epic El Cid in 1961, the world expected sparks of passion on screen, a chemistry worthy of the greatest classics. Instead, they got an open war that spilled off the set and, according to Sophia, nearly broke her fledgling Hollywood career. El Cid was no ordinary film. It was a grandiose historical drama, filmed in Spain under Anthony Mann's direction, chronicling the legend of Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, a medieval warlord turned Spanish national hero. Ambitious producer Samuel Bronston invested millions to make it an unforgettable spectacle, with epic battles, lavish sets, and a stellar cast. To embody his hero, he chose Charlton Heston, fresh off his Oscar triumph for Ben-Hur in 1959. Heston was Hollywood royalty, an imposing man with a biblical presence, convinced the film belonged entirely to him. Then came Sophia Loren, chosen to play Chimene, Rodrigo's loyal and passionate wife. By this time, Sophia had already conquered Europe and was breaking into Hollywood, sharing the screen with legends like Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, and Anthony Perkins. Glamorous, adored, she wasn't afraid to demand what she believed she deserved. But her demands would spark an explosive feud with Heston, turning the shoot into a veritable battlefield. Sophia didn't just accept her role passively. She negotiated a colossal salary, reportedly higher than Heston's, and secured $200 a week for her personal hairstylist, a luxury that spoke volumes about her status. She had the script translated into Italian, then rewritten in English in a style that suited her better, more poetic and nuanced. She insisted on adding more romantic scenes, refusing to be relegated to the role of a mere decorative wife. For her, Chimene had to be a strong, complex woman at the heart of the story. Heston, the undisputed king of Hollywood epics, was outraged by these demands. He believed himself the sole star of El Cid, the pivot around which everything revolved. Yet he saw Sophia's influence reshaping the entire film. Producers were rewriting scenes to highlight her, gradually turning the war epic into a romantic melodrama where love overshadowed battles. For Heston, whose pride was already immense, he was known for his authoritarian demeanor and conservative views, this was unbearable. Soon, the animosity between the two stars poisoned the set. Sophia's glamour, her occasional delays due to her perfectionism, everything irritated him to no end. It said he went so far as to demand a stand-in for himself whenever the camera focused solely on her, refusing to waste time in her presence. Even the love scenes were torture. In the final deathbed scene, where Rodrigo and Chimene were supposed to radiate tragic devotion, Heston could barely look at her. Later, he explained almost mockingly that he was looking toward the future rather than into his wife's eyes. What the audience took for stoic nobility was, in reality, nothing but icy contempt, a coldness that bled onto the screen. Behind the scenes, the hostility seeped into production politics. The film's posters placed Heston's name above Sophia's, prompting a complaint from the Italian actress against Bronston for breach of contract. For her, it wasn't about vanity, it was about survival in an industry where the order of credits determined power, respect, and future opportunities. While El Cid was a box office success and remains a classic of the epic genre, with its stunning Spanish landscapes and historical recreations, the scars of this feud remained raw. Critics noticed the strange lack of chemistry between the two stars. Newsweek wrote that Miss Loren and Heston spend most of the film simply glaring at each other furiously. For Sophia, it was more than an artistic disappointment, it was a personal devastation. Heston's influence in Hollywood, combined with rumors of her supposed diva behavior, closed doors. Roles became scarcer, American studios hesitated to cast her, fearing the reputation one of cinema's most powerful men had pinned on her. She confided privately one day, "They punished me because I wanted respect. They couldn't forgive me for not bowing to his ego." Heston, meanwhile, continued his triumphant career with films like Planet of the Apes in 1968, becoming a pillar of American cinema. But for Sophia, this experience forced her to refocus her career on Europe, where she found greater creative freedom. She worked with masters like Vittorio De Sica and Marcello Mastroianni, proving her talent in deeply dramatic roles. This feud with Heston didn't destroy Sophia, but it exposed the unequal power dynamics in Hollywood, where an ambitious woman could be punished for daring to claim her place. The fourth name on this list is Jane Mansfield, and the incident of the most famous side-eye in Hollywood history. It's one of the most iconic and widely shared photographs of all time. Sophia Loren, the Italian goddess of cinema, casting a murderous glance at Jane Mansfield's plunging décolletage. Taken in 1957 at a Beverly Hills party, this snapshot became immortal, shared endlessly as a meme before memes existed, the ultimate side-eye, capturing a moment of pure tension. But for Sophia, this moment was no light-hearted joke or viral buzz. Behind that icy glare were fear, anger, and the certainty that in Hollywood, a single scandalous evening could ruin a fledgling career. And Jane Mansfield, the quintessential blonde bombshell, nearly succeeded with this calculated stunt. Sophia Loren had just signed a major contract with Paramount Pictures. She was 22, already dazzling Europe with her natural beauty and raw talent in films like The Gold of Naples, and now Hollywood was claiming her as the next big international star. To mark her triumphant arrival, Paramount organized a lavish party at Romanoff's restaurant in Beverly Hills, inviting the cream of the cinema world. This evening was meant to be Sophia's, her grand coronation as America's new sensation, with toasts, speeches, and photographers capturing her radiant smile. Everything was orchestrated to propel her into the spotlight. Then Jane Mansfield made her entrance, fashionably late, fully aware that the flashbulbs were waiting. She had everything the press loved at the time: cascading platinum hair, generous curves displayed without restraint, and a pink dress so low-cut it seemed designed to provoke scandal. And scandal it did. Mansfield ignored the room full of celebrities, including Frank Sinatra and Luella Parsons, and headed straight for Sophia's table. She sat beside her, leaning just enough to ensure every flash captured her plunging neckline, teetering on the edge of a wardrobe malfunction. The photographers went wild, capturing the moment from every angle. Sophia's reaction, frozen in that singular shot by Joe Shear, was unforgettable. Her eyes, caught mid-glance, fixed on Mansfield's exposed chest with a mix of horror and pure contempt. "Look at the picture," Sophia explained decades later in an interview. "Where are my eyes? I'm staring at those nipples because I'm afraid they're going to fall into my plate. On my face, you can see the fear. I really felt like everything was going to explode, boom, and spill onto the table." That glance said it all, not petty jealousy as the press often interpreted it, but genuine horror at behavior she found vulgar and calculated. At the time, no one knew the full context. The public saw only a glance of budding rivalry between two of the decade's biggest stars, a sophisticated Italian against an explosive American. For Mansfield, the incident was clearly calculated. Famous for her wardrobe malfunctions and media stunts, she had built her career as much on scandal as on acting. In a world obsessed with Marilyn Monroe, Jane sold herself as more Marilyn than Marilyn, blonder, bolder, more excessive. And it worked like a charm. She graced magazine covers and landed roles in films like The Girl Can't Help It. Overnight, headlines stopped talking about Sophia Loren's Paramount contract and focused on Jane Mansfield's chest and Sophia's killer glance. What was meant to be Sophia's coronation turned into a media circus, a viral buzz before its time that overshadowed her talent. In Hollywood, image was everything, especially for a young foreign actress trying to break through. Sophia wanted to be recognized as a serious actress, capable of profound dramatic roles, not reduced to a scandalous snapshot or a fabricated rivalry. But after that night, her arrival was eclipsed by the affair. "That photo has haunted me my entire career," she admitted with frustration. "Very often, people bring it to me to sign, and I never do. I want nothing to do with it." For Sophia, the fear was real, that Mansfield had stolen the spotlight that night, and worse, had labeled her as a jealous rival, a woman defined not by her art but by a petty feud. Despite the humiliation, Sophia refused to fuel the controversy. She never signed the photo, never exploited the moment for publicity, and always spoke of Mansfield with surprising compassion, especially after Jane's tragic death in a car accident in 1967 at just 34 years old. "Respect for Jane Mansfield," Sophia said, "because she is no longer with us." This story reveals the traps Hollywood set for women. A single evening could change everything, turning a star into a laughingstock or a victim of rumors. Mansfield may not have intentionally sought to destroy Sophia, but her stunt nearly did, diverting attention from her talent to a superficial scandal. Yet Sophia persevered, winning her Oscar shortly after and proving her star shone far beyond a single icy glance. Finally, the fifth and last actor, or rather actress, is Gina Lollobrigida, and the Oscar that broke the fragile balance between them. In the 1950s, few stories burned brighter than the rivalry between Sophia Loren and Gina Lollobrigida, two Italian goddesses, both proclaimed the most beautiful woman in the world, locked in a feud that was tragic, theatrical, and cruelly public. For decades, this supposed war over beauty, fame, and roles nearly defined Sophia's career and almost destroyed it in its early days. It all began in 1954 at the Italian Film Festival in London. The world watched as Sophia Loren and Gina Lollobrigida posed side by side for photographers. Queen Elizabeth II attended the event, but all eyes were on the two Italian stars. Sophia, just 20 years old, arrived in a dramatic cape and crown, a young woman hungry for attention and full of ambition. Lollobrigida, 7 years her senior, was already an established star with successes like Fan Fan La Tulipe. The tension was palpable in their body language. Sophia smiled awkwardly, while Lollobrigida's gaze suggested she'd rather be anywhere else. That night, a rivalry was born, and it escalated quickly. Sophia, guided by her mentor and future husband Carlo Ponti, began comparing herself publicly to her elder. She joked that she was more voluptuous than Gina, implying her curves gave her an edge. Lollobrigida struck back with venom, "We're as different as a thoroughbred and a goat. I can play a peasant or a lady. Sophia can only play a peasant." The insult cut Sophia deeply, who was determined to prove she could be more than a voluptuous icon. In response, she suddenly discovered a noble link in her family tree and began presenting herself as Viscountess of Pozzuoli, Lady of Caserta. True or not, it was a direct retort to Gina's jab. The feud moved from newspapers to casting offices. Lollobrigida had triumphed in Bread, Love and Dreams and its sequel. But when she demanded more money for the third film, producers turned to Sophia. She accepted a lower fee and seized the role, becoming Italian cinema's new darling while Gina fumed. Headlines branded them sworn enemies. A Canadian newspaper even ran the headline, "Gina versus Sophia, Open War on Set." For a young actress trying to break into Hollywood, the danger was immense. Sophia risked being seen not as a talented actress but as a source of scandal and drama. In 1960, the balance tipped decisively. Sophia stunned the world in Vittorio De Sica's Two Women, a poignant war drama where she shed her glamorous image to play a desperate mother raped during World War II. At just 26, she won the Oscar for Best Actress, the first ever awarded to a non-English language performance. Lollobrigida, once crowned the world's most beautiful woman, had no Oscar, no Palme d'Or, no Hollywood breakthrough of such magnitude. She won Italian awards, but the international spotlight now shone on Sophia. The press framed it as a resounding victory for one and a humiliating defeat for the other. Sophia the profound artist, Gina the fading beauty. The rivalry never truly died. In interviews, Gina claimed Sophia fueled the feud. "My God, she and her publicists invented this rivalry with me, and she hasn't stopped for 50 years. For me, it was just boring." She implied Sophia built her career thanks to Carlo Ponti pulling strings behind the scenes, while she had succeeded alone. The bitterness lingered, even into old age. Sophia, however, remained largely silent, refusing to add fuel to the fire. The two women appeared together only once after the 1950s, at a Michael Jackson tribute in Los Angeles in 2003, and even then, they exchanged barely a few polite words. What the public often forgets is how dangerous this feud was for Sophia early on. Hollywood was unforgiving toward women seen as difficult or petty. Casting directors whispered that Sophia might be too controversial, too tied to scandal. Lollobrigida, already well established, nearly crushed her rival's momentum before it even began. But Sophia held firm. She refused to be defined by tabloid wars. She focused on her craft, delivering performances that revealed her emotional depth until no one could deny her greatness. In January 2023, upon Gina Lollobrigida's death at 95, Sophia surprised the world with her moving statement, "Yesterday, I was too overwhelmed and couldn't find the words. Dear Gina, your body may be gone, but the light of your star will always shine on us and in our hearts. I love you, Gina." It was a graceful final chapter to a bitter rivalry. After half a century of venomous headlines and cutting jabs, Sophia chose compassion, proving once again her unmatched class. At 90, Sophia Loren's truth finally shines through, and suddenly, the films we thought we knew take on a new hue, revealing the invisible struggles behind the frozen smiles. The question remains, can we still enjoy a film knowing the real tensions that played out behind the scenes? Should legends like Sophia be celebrated for their pure art or for the wars they fought to survive in a ruthless world? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments, give a like if this video captivated you, subscribe for more stories about your favorite stars, and share this video with every Sophia Loren fan you know. Thanks for watching, and see you soon on Star Life.